long should a podcast be?
How long should a podcast be?
How long should a podcast be is something I'm always asked.
How long should a podcast be? Is this week's prompt on Too Long Didn't Listen. I'm Josh from Double Audio, and you might hear some slight differences in how I sound today, because I'm on a walk with a clip-on mic, so if you can hear birds and wind, then welcome to nature. Should this episode be longer? We'll find out. See you on the other side.
Too Long Didn't Listen with Double Audio.
How long should a podcast be? My personal preference is a 30 to 45 minute podcast. It's the perfect commute time, if you have a 45-minute commute, it's the perfect errand run, going to the shops, going for a mental health walk, doing some exercise on your lunch break. That is the optimal time for me as a listener. As a producer, again, it's all about knowing your audience. How long are they going to be listening to your show? Where are they listening to it? What's their timeline? When are people dropping off? The podcast length should be dictated by, I think, A, what the story requires, what the content requires, but also B, what your audience can latch onto. How long can they stay with you, and if they can't, are they willing to come back, or have you lost them forever?
How long should a podcast be? I took this to mean how long should each episode be, and to that I say, who cares? I have asked lots of people this question, and some people say they like short episodes, some people prefer long episodes. I would say unless you're advertising bite-sized episodes or deep dives that kind of imply a specific length, make it as long or as short as you like. Don't waste your time, don't waste your listeners' time by adding filler just because you think an episode has to be an hour long. And also don't cut yourself short if you're on a flow with a guest or if you've got a lot of interesting stuff to say about your specific topic. The only thing I will say is keep an eye out if you have an editor about how long each episode can be. Otherwise, you might end up having to pay extra because you talk too much.
How long should a podcast be is something I'm always asked. You could have a podcast that's an hour and a half that does really well, or a 20-minute one that people barely listen to. A good rule of thumb at the moment is maybe 30 to 45 minutes. But don't worry too much about aiming to hit a length. Sit there and think, is this still interesting? And are people going to stick with it? And that's how long you should make it.
How long should a podcast be? A podcast should be exactly as long as it needs to be. It's not just about what your audience asks for. It also depends on your capacity to create. If you can produce a 5-minute episode each week, that's your show. If you're making longer episodes, that comes with more time in recording, editing, and prep. It's a balance. You want something that feels sustainable for you and something people connect with. Over time, you also teach your audience what to expect. Some people are great at short form. Others do well with long conversations. Most people fall somewhere in between. Every minute matters. When you're clear on your purpose and your audience, the right length becomes obvious.
I know many people starting a podcast are thinking, how long should my podcast actually be? And I get it. It's a bit confusing. But the thing is, there's no hard set rule out there about the length of a podcast. It really does depend on what's right for your target audience, for your subject matter. You've got podcasts out there which last a couple of minutes, if that. And then you've also got podcasts which are a couple of hours. It really does depend. So whilst you're building and shaping and molding your podcast, really work out what's right for the audience, what's right for the content. Can my audience even sustain an episode that's kind of a couple of hours long? From the types of podcasts that I tend to work on, they tend to be between 30 to 40 minutes, but that's just because it's right for the target audience. But yeah, definitely work out whilst you're building your podcast what's right for that audience of yours.
Thanks for tuning in to Too Long Didn't Listen. I'm still Josh from Double Audio. That might not surprise you. And yeah, I hope you found that episode useful. If you have some opinions on whether people are right or wrong, or whether this episode should have been longer or shorter even, then let me know in the comments. And yeah, like, subscribe, please rate it, and tell a friend that might actually benefit from tuning into the series. The next episode is how important is video. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Too Long Didn't Listen with Double Audio.